Hello and welcome back to Property Matters on Dublin South FM and on iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon. You can contact us on social media at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. Joining us this week, we have Karan Perla, who recently, or in the last number of years, finished his Masters in Dublin. And we wanted to talk about the challenge of house hunting in other cities outside of Dublin. So, Karan, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. And so I mentioned there you undertook your Masters in Dublin. That was what, about 2 years ago?
So yes, that was in 2019 September, and I moved to Limerick in 2020 for my job then.
Oh, okay. And was Limerick a destination for you? Was it somewhere that you had visited and wanted to return to, or did you essentially go because you had a job offer?
So that was only because of the job, because I've never been to Limerick earlier. I've been to Galway, I've been to Malinhead, I've been to Cork, but never in Limerick. This was just for job.
Okay, and yeah, but you know what? Look, there are lots of reasons why we choose. So, did you have a chance when it came down to house hunting? Because again, when you were house hunting, we were still in a cycle where there was a shortage of properties. How did you find the house hunting experience in Limerick?
So to be very honest, I'm still looking out for a good house for myself, because I started looking for a house back in March. And it's been almost 4 or 5 months now, and I'm still looking out for a house. As in, I had a 3 or 4 houses that I had shortlisted, and I had a good number of bidding done on that. And the price was raised to up to 25% of the original price, and I had to back out of that because of my financial reasons. And I'm still waiting for the right house then.
Okay, so where have you been living since you moved to Limerick?
So currently, I'm living in Limerick City Centre itself, and I am living on rent. And it's exactly in front of my office. So traveling is not an issue for me.
Very good. Do you like living in Limerick? You know, because Limerick is a city that I've lived kind of, within 45 minutes of Limerick.
Okay.
So I think it's fabulous for shopping, for eating, for socializing, for events. So I love Limerick, but it's a city that gets a bit of bad press. So how have you found the experience of moving down there?
So to be fair, at first, people used to scare, as in saying that Limerick is very quiet and Limerick is not as you would expect it to be. But then when I moved here, I got some really good friends. So we go out for clubbing and we go out to play football. As in, we have a good football turf in UL, University of Limerick. So we go there every weekend and we play football and have a good friend circle as well. And I think that it is important to have good people around you, and no matter where you live, that will be good enough.
I think that that's a really good point. Like, we talk about this sense of community. So having had the experience of living in Dublin and then living in Limerick, did you find it easier to make friends and expand your social circle in Limerick?
So actually, having similar hobbies is important, because I play football and I had to find people who play football, and that was one way of communicating. And another thing was dancing. So I like dancing. So I had to look for people who used to dance as well. And that is one way of looking out for someone. Okay. And if you have that one sense of a connection, it is very easy to bond with people then.
Very good. Well, it's almost 2 decades since I lived close to Limerick. What is the dancing and the club scene like in Limerick now?
It's crazy. I've been to Angel Lane just last Saturday. So it's crazy. It's crazy. No doubt.
And actually, I'm really glad that you brought this up, because so often when we talk about house hunting, whether you're looking for somewhere to rent or to buy, we get stuck into house prices and good areas, or if you've children, what are local schools like, whereas actually the social element is so important. So At the moment, you're house hunting. Are you looking at for somewhere to rent or to buy?
Up to buy right now because I've been renting from 2 years now, and I think it's the right time for me to get a place because I'll be getting married next year, and I want to get my own house before I get married. Then,
Oh, well, congratulations. You know,
thank you so much.
that's a great reason
Yes.
to want to get your own house. And your fiance, is she working in Limerick as well?
So actually, she is in India. So I'll be getting married and getting her here. And she's a dentist. So yeah, she'll be happy here.
Oh, very good. So she's hoping to work in Limerick when she gets over.
Yes. Yes, she will.
Super. Yeah. And so tell me, how are you finding so you said you started the process of house hunting 4 or 5 months ago.
Yes. Yes.
What are the stock levels like within your budget? Are you finding that there's plenty of choice?
Actually, there is a lot of options, as in I am getting a lot of apartments as well as houses on my draft filter because I have a filter set on draft and I get every email as in we have a new apartment, we have a new house, new apartment, new house. And I've visited uh, some of the apartments, but then finally I think that I would go 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 for a house instead of an apartment.
Okay,
So,
that's interesting. You know, because that's you know, the trend in Ireland has always been that home buyers and first time buyers prefer houses, but it's a trend that has started to change, but it's one that definitely needs to change.
through that.
But talk to me about your the mortgage application. How did you find going through? Do you have your approval in principle now?
Yes, actually, the first thing that I did was getting an AIP because that is the first thing that we ever have to do. As, and then only after I got my approval in principle, I applied for houses. I went for viewings. So and the first house uh, that I viewed was in city itself, and it was an apartment, not a house. And that was a 3 bedroom apartment, and it was for 180. It was listed for 180. And I was happy to go for it. Even I was ready to go up to 210 as well, as in I was ready to bid. Uh, and then what happened was there was a person who came in with complete cash, and that is when the owner opted for full cash instead of mortgage. And since I wouldn't have the
Yeah.
full cash, I was knocked out of the bidding.
Yeah, look, that is a common enough occurrence at the
Yeah.
moment, and you know, it's actually a very unusual feature of the Irish
Yeah.
property market that we actually have seasoned cash investors bidding against first-time buyers and other home buyers, and in some cases, you know, they're even bidding against local authorities and housing
True.
charities for the same
True.
property. That just doesn't happen in many other property markets. It's a I don't know, is it kind of a weird anomaly or is it really a symptom of the dysfunction in the property market?
Mhm.
So that obviously wasn't a successful property bidding for you. How
Yeah.
many other properties have you actually bid on? Can you remember?
So talking about bidding, I bid for total of 5 properties, as in 2 apartments and 3 houses. And the latest that I bid was just around here, as in it was apartment 15. Uh, s- Not apartment, it was house actually. It was um a terrace house. It was a terrace house, and it was here at Lower Carries Road. Lower Carries Road. And that price was 175 as an opening price. And the bidding went up to 215, and that was my last bid. And then someone bid for 218, and that is when I backed out, as in I would not want to bid above that year in the city because I would instead go to Raheen or Duradoil.
That's a huge jump though to go from an asking
Yes,
price of 175 to
true that.
bidding of 218.
True, true
Okay,
that.
and so in the other, is that kind of, is that similar to what happened in the other scenarios where you were bidding?
Yes, yes.
And do you know, were you bidding against home buyers or were you bidding against investors?
Not really, because I called the agent to ask, but then he doesn't reveal the information. As in, I'm not sure, because of personal reasons or privacy. us, and he did not reveal about who is bidding or where are they bidding from, as in us. And the only thing that they mentioned is there were three other bidders for this house. So yeah, and I
And okay, and
yeah.
so where are you at the moment? Like, do you have options? Have you places that you're waiting to look at, or have you bids that you're waiting to hear back on?
So no, actually currently I'm on hold at the moment because I'm going to India in 2 weeks now. As I have my brother's wedding in the month of December, and I'll be busy for that. And once I'll be back from India, I'll be jumping straight into house hunting right away.
Oh, very good. Okay, and look, was it your intention? Was it your intention to try have the property sale agreed before you went back to India for this visit?
Uh, mm, as actually, it will be difficult for me uh, as to confirm a house without looking.
Mhm.
As I think when I'll be back from India, then I'll go full fledged into house hunting again.
Um,
So,
very good.
probably I'll be on hold for a month.
Well, that's understandable. And to
Yeah.
be fair, as we come into December, the market does tend to shut down a
So,
little bit, kind of in the 2 weeks before Christmas.
yeah.
But just in terms of your bidding experience, how
Yes.
have you found? Like one of the things that I'm really keen to speak to lots of house hunters and people looking at rental property is to understand their experience in the market. So, like, how did you find being able to access properties and then being able to arrange viewings? How did you find that process?
Mm. As I can say that the process is quite easy, as in I must say that Daft is really helpful. As in, I can say that almost all the houses or apartments that have been listed in Daft. And the best thing is, I do have agencies as a quite close to me because I live in the city. As and I've been to Rooney's, I've been to a couple of agencies, as in just to know that okay, so do we have any houses? Do we have any properties? Do we have any apartments? So yeah, that is helpful. As in, there is one way of communicating, and that is through DAF. That's the only way.
That's really interesting. Daft
Mm.
would be delighted to hear that. And but
Yes,
because you're in the city centre and you mentioned Rooney's, and of course there's a number of really good estate
yes,
agencies right in the
yeah,
heart of Limerick. Are you
yes.
starting to see any value from building an offline human connection with some of the estate agents, so that they can get to know you, know what your
Mm,
requirements are, and
mm.
maybe introduce you at an early stage to properties?
So actually, there are two people that I have been in contact with quite regularly. And if there's any house that the same agent or if the same person has listed, I can directly call them because I have their numbers on my phone and I can contact them right away. So
Oh,
yeah, that is a
and
good sign.
for any of the bidding, we talk on this show, we talk a lot about the technology. And so for the last number of years, all estate agents have had access to technology that will allow for online bidding so that
Mm,
there can be a very transparent process. And one of the things we're really surprised by is that during COVID, there was a great uptake in the online bidding.
mhm.
However, that appears to have fallen off again. So, you mentioned there that you bid on, I think, 5 properties, was
Yeah,
it 2 apartments and 3 houses?
yes.
Of those, did you use online bidding technology for any of those?
Uh, Actually, most of them were on mails, as in I used to mail saying that as okay, accepted. Now I can bid for this amount. As in that is a regular pattern how the bidding goes. And I remember that there was one property, and that was an apartment, and that was listed on bid1x.com.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and that was an apartment that I tried for, but then I backed out. And because of that was just a 1 BHK apartment, and that is just that where I was thinking that if I don't get anything, I would go for that. But then even the price for that was ex- uh, So the price was exceeding the amount that I could spend for a 1 bedroom apartment, because I wouldn't spend that much for a 1 bedroom apartment. It wouldn't make sense for me. Instead, I would go for a house.
Okay, no, and look, that sounds like a very logical kind of
Yeah.
a smart decision. Have you considered buying a property at auction? Would you be are you open to buying a property at auction?
Um. Uh, so, and would that be a new house or a
Well,
second-hand one?
auctions generally are where it can be offline, online or offline, but where it's online, there might be one day where, 20, 30, 40 homes would be sold, but you have to bid, you have to register in advance, and then you bid on the day. Um, so it can be a very transparent process, but it can be a very
Yeah.
high pressure process as well.
Yeah. True
Is
that.
it something you've considered?
Uh, so, and actually, the one that I mentioned about this bid one X was something similar. As in, I had to register there, and I had to as and I had to bid there, as and we had a window of 2 hours. So yes, I was in. Uh, uh, so I was a part of that. I was a part of that
Okay, very good.
for one
Because
of those apartment.
But no, that's great because so many home buyers are very nervous about that, and particularly
Yes.
first-time buyers, they're very nervous, so they wouldn't do it. So essentially, I know you have parked your house hunting now,
Yes.
probably until December or
December
certainly
and
into the
yeah.
new year.
Yes.
How confident are you about the supply of properties that you've an interest in Limerick? How confident are you that within the period of your
Mm.
mortgage approval in principle that you
Mhm.
will be able to secure a home?
As I think there are a lot of houses that are coming into the market as because of the new regulations as that the government has imposed. And one thing that I've seen is because of the mortgage approval is increased because of the 4 times of the salary. And that is the reason why the prices are increasing as well, because they know, because the owners know that people now have more money to spend, and that is the reason why the bidding amount is going up and up.
Well, there are so many reasons, unfortunately,
Yeah.
why the bidding is going up. The lack of
Yeah.
supply is one thing, but
True.
unfortunately, there are inflationary pressures that are impacting everything.
True that.
So certainly it is difficult. But one thing we've seen in the last few months is that the rate of increase,
Mhm.
so house prices are still they're still growing, but the rate of increase has really slowed down.
True
So
that.
actually, in the new year might bring more stabilization to the market.
Yeah.
So would you be flexible in widening your search area outside of Limerick City and the surroundings?
So yeah, I would surely think about it, because I have not decided that I have to get a place here in the city itself, or in Raheen itself, or in Duradale itself. So I'll be okay with going about half an hour or 1 hour away from Limerick as well. And because that would help me up to find more houses, or more places. And actually, what is important is, it is not the house that is important, but it is the ambience that is important when I step into the house. In total, I've looked at about 14 to 15 properties, and I've hardly liked about 4 or 5 houses, and that I have bid for, because I've seen houses, but then it's like, nah, not my type. So finally, I don't see myself living in that house currently.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a piece of unsolicited advice, which
Yes.
I know home buyers really don't like getting. But when you talk about the energy and the ambience of a house,
Yes.
really, a lot of times that's something you create. If
Yeah.
you get the location right, if the
True
location
that.
is right and it's somewhere you love,
Okay.
then actually the ambience and the energy of a
Yeah.
home is something that you
Yeah.
create.
True.
So that's really interesting one. But
Good.
Karan, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us so far.
Thank you so
It's so
much.
interesting for us because we generally just speak to the industry. It's so important that we tap in and hear consumer voices more. So I'm delighted that I'm delighted that you've made progress, that you have the approval in place, and that you're looking forward to coming back in December and
Yes.
January and starting into this house hunt again. And I absolutely hope that you find the property that's right for you. And in the meantime, enjoy your brother's wedding. I'd imagine that's a lot of responsibility for you over there.
Yes, true that. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your time.
Very good.
Take
Thank
care.
you so much for talking to us. So that was Karan Perla, and we need to take a quick break. Stay tuned.